All right. So good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. We're going to wait just a couple minutes before we get started, but I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Luke Reynolds, the Associate Director of Government and Public Affairs for the Irrigation Association. I'm sitting here in southwestern Colorado today, enjoying it's a beautiful morning and hopefully going to get a little rain, a little natural irrigation here. Kevin, where are you joining us from?
From Elgin, Illinois, about an hour west of the city of Chicago.
And what's going on out there today? How's the weather?
It is a beautiful fall day. It's about 68 degrees out and sunny, and the vast majority of our trees still have their leaves. So we've had that Indian summer, as they call it, where most of September was above 80 degrees, which is unusual for us in this neck of the woods. But
So
we'll take
things
it.
they haven't started to change then yet. The foliage?
No, no, the foliage hasn't. Everybody is pretty much in winterization mode because the goal is to have that done, a week or two before Thanksgiving. So the air compressors are out humming every day, but the install crews are still getting after it.
Wow, that's excellent. And it'll be winter before we know it.
I know it. I know. I'm already thinking Christmas cards. Is that wrong? I always get them out late. I'm like, this year is going to be the year. I'm going to have them out by the end of October, but we'll see.
That's ambitious. I admire your ambition. That's excellent. Well, just want to welcome everyone and please let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to say hey to everybody and Art Tech from there in Cape Cod, out there in New England. Good to see everyone. Oh, some folks from Dallas, Seattle. Great. Hey Josh, glad to see you from Boulder.
Right on. Love it.
Oh, and from Aruba. I love when we have global participation. And I mean that's not a surprise. Kevin, you're a cosmopolitan man. You attract everybody from across the entire world. So
I don't know about all that.
well, great. Well, it's 10:01 here, so we'll get started. Again, I'll just reintroduce myself. I'm Luke Reynolds, Associate Director of Government and Public Affairs for the Irrigation Association. Absolutely thrilled to be joined by Kevin Battistoni, and I'll let Kevin introduce himself and kind of tell us a little bit about the webinar. But before I do that, I do want to remind everyone that this webinar is eligible for one CEU. But in order to earn that full CEU, you'll need to stay with us for the full duration. I have no doubt that Kevin's going to keep you entertained and spreading his knowledge for the full hour here. So please just remember that stay with us so you get your full CEU. And we do self-report, so you'll be able to log into the Irrigation Association website to log your CEU from today's webinar. So with that, Kevin, I've got the housekeeping things out of the way. I'm going to turn it over to you. And thanks to you and to Hunter for this presentation today.
Yeah, no, hey, to the 182 people listening right now, thank you for giving us your unrenewable resource of time. And my goal during this webinar is not to waste your time. This is really about giving you tactics and strategy to capitalize on what still is the largest market opportunity in the industry. We were having a little sidebar conversation before we got started. The Irrigation Association does this really cool survey they put out every year. It sweeps across 1,600 green industry professionals in North America. And there's one particular survey question that's in there every year. And this is the one I put on my cheaters for to look at. And that is, what percentage of your clients have smart-based Wi-Fi controlled controllers? That number 3 years ago was at 27%. So I feel like it's a decent representation of North America, right? This last year, it was up to 36%. So people call me the Wi-Fi evangelist. If I get close, I'm going to try to convert you. But until I see that number at 80 or 90%, I'm just going to keep the throttle down all the way. So with that in mind, I like to take a step back before we take a step forward. I think what we need to do today, because I get to travel all over the country, meet with best in class green industry professionals, and we will twist our brains late at night going, what reason in the world would any homeowner need to control their irrigation system remotely? Or would they have to? And the answer is they don't need to, right? It's anything and everything that talks to your smartphone feels good. So, if we're going to be honest, the drug dealers of today are cell phone manufacturers, and the drug they're dealing is dopamine. I mean, just let the realities of the situation soak in. 7 hours and 4 minutes screen time. That is the latest stats I've read on US based screen time. So if you want to meet your customers where they're at, this is where they're at. And this is what is driving this market opportunity. I'm not here to talk about tech addiction, but I will talk about data that's real, right? So with that in mind, I always say when I'm talking, you might be in a room with your competition. At this point, everybody's at home. That's cool. There is no competition right now. All 200 people listening to this webinar, this is a rising tide raises all ships. Let me introduce you to your competition. There's your competition. The company that kills you will look nothing like you. I've done this query all over. And I remember it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I was at home. I was on the A train, right, on Amazon. I just typed in Wi-Fi irrigation controller. Take your pick. There's 35 companies making Wi-Fi irrigation hardware and software. All right. And you know which one I put in my cart. But down at the bottom, Amazon's great at increasing transaction weight. So right at the bottom, it says, hey, suggested with this purchase, Amazon Home Services. So I clicked on it. This is the screenshot I took from that query. All right. And with that in mind, within 5 minutes, I got 2 phone calls, both from non-green industry companies, tech companies, okay, home automation companies that were willing to come to my house and cook the steak that I bought directly from Amazon for $80. That's the competition. We're in the pole position. You have trust and you have tenure with your clients. They want you to bring this champion solution to them. But if we don't proactively let them know that we know this space, we're comfortable in this space, and we have the best solution for them, you're going to lose it to Amazon. That's the reality of the situation. So let's get into it, right? Everything I share with you here today, I promise you, I looked like a complete and total idiot in the field in front of contractors and homeowners. So I'm here to point out all the puddles so that y'all don't step in them. And I promise you, if you follow this script, you will look like you know more than your clients. You will look professional. You will be able to execute the job, and you'll get a good Google review in the process, right? So language is powerful. I like to speak like a professional whenever possible. I'm going to put up some acronyms here. We're only going to go through 4 of them because they're really the only ones you need. All right, so I'm going to read through them. Then I'm going to give you the tactical situation in which I suggest you utilize them. We're going to go from bottom to the top, right? And I'm hanging out with the guys in coffee shops and Geek Squad, and they use this term called a WAP. I want you to think about the WAP like the point of connection in irrigation. Where's the water meter? Where's the backflow? All right. All WAP means is wireless access point. It is where is the modem and router? That's the WAP, wireless access point. And we need to know that just like we need to know point of connection when we're going to install an irrigation system. The next one, y'all know, but you don't use it. ISP, Internet Service Provider. The one above that is RSSI. The first time I heard that, I'm like, wait, I got it. Really super strong internet. My buddy Warren White goes, you're close but wrong. It stands for Received Signal Strength Indicator. And it is a mannerism in which we read potency of a Wi-Fi signal at a specific location, like home automation specialists do. And the very top one is SSID. That is the professional way to ask somebody what the name of their network is. The SSID equals network name. So if I showed up at Luke's house today, a couple things I've experienced, right? When I'm have that detached perspective and I'm riding along with contractors, when they get to the front door of the homeowner, right? The homeowner is uber excited to have their new Wi-Fi controller put in, but the confidence that the contractor typically has, right? If you're asking me about irrigation, I'm an irrigation contractor, 70% of communication's nonverbal. It's body language, it's vocal inflection, it's facial expression, right? And if somebody asks you about irrigation, you don't realize it, but you're peacocking. All your feathers are out, your chest is out, your shoulders are down. You're speaking with confidence because you know more about irrigation than the person you're interacting with. And the paradigm shift that I observe is that when these same confident contractors approach conversations about Wi-Fi and connected devices with the consumer, they look like a pitcher that somebody just went yard on. The shoulders are slumped. The body language is saying, hey, I'm going to try to make this thing connect. So if your current methodology for installing Wi-Fi controllers is, Kev, I put in the password, I cross my fingers and I say a Hail Mary and I hope it works, this is for you. Okay. So what I suggest when you show up at somebody's door, you need to reaffirm to them their good decision to hire you to do the job. So what I like to start off with is straight away asking the consumer these 4 questions. Hey, Kevin from Kevin's Irrigation. I'm here to install a Wi-Fi irrigation controller. A few data points I need to collect before we get the ball rolling. Yeah, what's going on? I need to know where your WAP's located. I need to know who your ISP is. I need to know your SSID, and then specifically where your controller's mounted because I need to go test your RSSI. In that moment, you will get a glazed over look on the eyes of 90% of your clients. And that is exactly where you want them because people buy when you put them in a place of comfort. I like to do that through education. So just by using these acronyms, you just created an educational situation because your consumer's body language says, huh? And you go, oh, so sorry. I just need to know the location of your modem and router, who your internet service provider is, the specific name of your network. Please write it down on a piece of paper for me because I need it exact. And then also, I need to know where your controller is mounted so that I can test the potency of your Wi-Fi at that specific location. And look, in today's day and age, 2025, when you tell a homeowner, hat in hand, that they have bad Wi-Fi, get your guard up because a right cross is coming over the top because that's like telling them their kid's ugly. You know, they're like, I pay for the best Wi-Fi in the world. And that is one of the issues in our sales cycle is the hardware that we're hired to connect is never close in proximity to the wireless access point. So we're going to get into it all. Number 1, I would say this. We need to add professionalism not only to our verbiage and our cadence and our tactics, but to our proposals and our contracts. Any Wi-Fi controller manufacturer has a document. If you go to hydrowise.com and you type in network requirements, you're going to get a 1-page PDF, right? Include it in your contract. This is no different than you doing a residential install on a 5/8 inch meter and saying, hey, this bid proposal is based on you having a 5/8 inch meter, 1 inch copper, at least 10 gallons per minute, and 50 PSI at the point of connection. This is you in IoT speak saying, you want a working Wi-Fi controller? I need this, right? The other one that I think is important to include, because I read this article in 2023, and this article said 70% of all cybersecurity attacks in North America are residential. So I look at it from a consumer's optics. I'm a consumer. Everybody listening is, right? So if I hired a company to put a piece of hardware onto my Wi-Fi network, if in their contract they already had a security statement for the hardware being installed, to me as a consumer, that feels like a warm hug, right? These are free documents, network requirements, security statement. Download them, put them into your contract when you are replacing controllers or installing new ones on new installs. Now, some of this information I'm going to go through might be repetitious. You might be like, Kev, I know all this already. Great. There's power in repetition. The more times you go through it, the more you will retain. So on the screen, we're looking at a modem in the middle. All right. And the word modem, the MO in the word modem stands for modulation. And the DEM in the word modem stands for demodulation. In very simple terms, and those are the only terms I use, the modem is a translator. It is taking digital information from the internet and translating it into analog information. In very simple terms, that's all a modem does. It's a translator. All right. Now, the more mission critical item, and again, you can't control it, right? This is why you want to go to the consumer's wireless access point because you got to see, what am I working with? Is it 1/2 inch copper? Is it 1/4 inch copper? Is it a 2-inch tap? You don't know. That's the router. All right. The router takes that analog information that was translated from the modem and it pushes it out through radio frequency. This is the crux of the presentation. This is as complex as it gets. Wi-Fi is nothing more than radio frequency with invisible analog data packets going between the hardware and the router. And with that in mind, When you think about your irrigation controller, your Ring video doorbell, your Nest thermostat, your Wi-Fi refrigerator, your Wi-Fi microwave. I got Wi-Fi can lights in my house. Every single one of those devices, whether my light's on or off, if it has power coming to it, it's trying to talk to the router all at the same time. So I call the router the conversationalist. I grew up in a beauty shop in the basement. My mom would be twisting one person's hair and conversating with five others all at the same time, right? High level conversationalist. But the thing with the routers are they're not all created equal. And so I like to propose the latest data I've read in the US household, average US household has 25 connected devices. Now I live in a townhome, just my 7-year-old daughter and I counted up the other day, I have 18. I'm like, how could I ever have gotten 18? And that's when my light bulb went off and I go, oh my God, yeah, I put in a dozen can lights that operate on an app through my phone. Each one of those can lights is a piece of hardware on the network that I wasn't even thinking about. So we get to that number pretty quick and it grows. I'm going to bring up this router because it was my arch nemesis about 4 years ago. And when you look at it at first glance, you're like, wait a minute, Kevin, Netgear makes good hardware. You're right, they do, right? Amazon's Choice. This one's got 4.5 stars on 50,000 reviews. I got called out to a job site 4 years ago by one of my buddies who went through this webinar before I had this piece of content in it. And he goes, Kev, I need you. He's like, I did all the tests, everything checked out, but this controller keeps dropping off and reconnecting and dropping off and reconnecting. I'm like, okay. So I jump out of the pickup truck. I'm in the jumpsuit. And for about 2 minutes, the homeowner's like, oh my God, this guy's the savior. He's going to fix it. But after being on the phone with tech support for 15, 20 minutes, walking back and forth from the wireless access point to the controller, I could read the body language on the consumer. And she was like, yeah, this guy's an idiot too. And he does not know what he's talking about. Right. So I was on this job site for about 2 hours. I flipped over the router at the wireless access point, and all I did was take the model number from the router and type it into Google. And this was the aha moment. When I typed it into Google, first thing I noticed, this router has a ceiling. It can only handle 20 connected devices. So I then turned to the consumer and said, we'll just call her Mrs. Johnson. I said, Mrs. Johnson, do you know how many connected devices you have on our network? And her immediate reaction was, I think 8. It took her 20 minutes to figure out we were connecting the 21st device that day. All right. So number one, when you go to install Wi-Fi, you can't control the modem or the router, but you need to know what their ceilings are. So the first thing I would do before you take the controller out of the box, because make no mistake, the moment you pull a controller out of the box and you mount it on the wall, you have just made a silent promise to your customer. And that silent promise is before you leave, they're going to have a working Wi-Fi controller. And anything shy of that, I don't care how slick you are, when you mount that controller and you can't get it connected and you have to go hat in hand to the consumer and say, it's not me, it's your network. They're internally going, oh my God, this person's a knucklehead and I hired the wrong company to do the job. So just do this query. Every Wi-Fi controller, go to the router, flip it over, put the model number in, and now you know the ceiling because now you can engage with the conversation with your client. Hey, I noticed you have not Netgear model number R6700AX. That has a 20 limit hardware connection. Do you know how many pieces of hardware you have connected to it currently? You know what I mean? Now you're getting there, you're educating them and you're doing your due diligence. So the moment the controller's on the wall, it's your problem. Before the controller's on the wall, it's the consumer's problem. And you're the educator, not the bad guy, right? So I can't stress that enough. Now, I'm going to show you basic setups, and you all got them, you know them, but power and repetition. This is most common, right? Where we have the modem, the translator, and then we have the router, the conversationalist, right? Other one right next to it. I call this one Batman and Robin, or if you like Saturday Night Live back in the day, that's Tan Man and Lotion Boy. All right, now, beware when you go to somebody's wireless access point and you see the modem and the router coexisting as one piece of hardware, that is a tell. All right. Typically, that's going to tell you that that is rented equipment from the internet service provider. I'm going to give you a quick story. My brother Michael has been doing irrigation for almost 40 years. He has 2 master's degrees, working on his third, and he's a master plumber. All right. I went to his house for Mother's Day last year. He has a HydroWise controller at his house. I walked through the front door with my daughter. I didn't even get her shoes off. And my brother's a big guy, and he goes, "Hey, your controller's not working." Suddenly became my controller, like I make them in my basement with a soldering iron. I'm like, "Hey, time out, big boy. What's going on here?" And he's like, "Well, it's not connected to Wi-Fi." I went to Michael's modem router combo. He had one of these. I Google searched the model number. It could handle 16 devices. Now, let me remind you, Mike and his wife both have at least 3 pieces of hardware on them at all time: laptop, tablet, cell phone. Mike's got 3 kids and they're in the same setup. And Mike's having a family party and there's 50 Battistonis in his house. What happens when you go to somebody's house and you know you're going to be there for the duration of the day? What's the first question you ask? "Hey, dude, what's your Wi-Fi password?" Right? So here's what really stinks. When a router is overtaxed with hardware, what do you think drops off first? The stuff that's furthest in proximity from the wireless access point, which typically is the hardware we're contracted to install. So just think about that for a moment, right? Now, we're going to talk about Wi-Fi boosters and Wi-Fi signal enhancers, right? Because that's the irony of our situation is hardware, wireless access point, miles apart. Okay. So as a rule, and not all Wi-Fi boosters are created equal, but as a rule, a Wi-Fi booster is nothing more than a radio repeater, because Wi-Fi is radio frequency with invisible analog data packets. That's it. A booster is going to increase the overall area of coverage by 50%. All right. So whatever that signal was from the wireless access point, it's going to increase it by about 50%. All right. Now, I don't know. I'm assuming out of the 213 people on right now that a couple of y'all have a mesh network, right? And I want to explain mesh networks because when you walk into a job site, you've never seen one before. I want you to have confidence. Okay. So mesh network is very similar. You've got your modem, you've got your primary router, but then you have these little devices that look like Wi-Fi boosters, only they're called nodes. Okay. And the fundamental difference between a Wi-Fi booster and a node is that a Wi-Fi booster increases by 50%. It's just a radio repeater. And a node on a mesh network replicates the original signal from the wireless access point. So it's a 100% increase. And for example, I have an Eero system at my house that's Amazon's home brand. For the router and 2 nodes, it cost me $200. If you go to Costco, theirs is called the Orbi system, and that one's I bought one for my parents. I think I got a router and 2 nodes for like $300. And the cool part with these is, unlike boosters, boosters can't talk to boosters. That doesn't work. But nodes on a mesh network can talk to one another. So if you're trying to increase your Wi-Fi coverage at your property, or you're looking for solutions for your clients, mesh networks are a good solution to increase signal, because you can daisy chain nodes one to another. And as long as the node can find another node and all the way back to the primary router, you have larger bandwidth and coverage. So with that in mind, I just want you to, here's a better visual representation of what a mesh network would look like on a property. 15 years ago, it would have cost you thousands of dollars for a mesh network. They have come down drastically in cost. And if you're out installing Wi-Fi controllers, you're going to see more and more of them. And I just want you to understand the fundamentals of how they work. Okay. So think about it like head-to-head coverage in irrigation speak, right? We've got no dead zones. Now let's get into those radio signals that are coming out of the router. So any router that's been manufactured in the last 20, 30 years is what we call a dual band router, meaning it's got 2 radio frequencies, right? Like AM and FM. Fun fact, when COVID hit, at-home Wi-Fi usage went up 65%. And at the time, we only had 2 highways. We had 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and 5 gigahertz. Those are 2 different radio frequencies coming out of the router, thus why it's called a dual band router. Now, post-COVID, manufacturers and Wi-Fi router manufacturers said, "Hey, I think we need more highways." They're like, hey, that infrastructure that we had of those two highways did support a 65% increase, but where are we going to go from here? So the newer routers that you buy, you'll see 6 gigahertz on there and you'll see 60 as well. What they didn't anticipate is manufacturers that make Wi-Fi products that adds cost to the product because you have to now add in a chip that talks on 60 or on 6. So 2.4 and 5 are still the primary bandwidths. Now, if you're using Hunter Industry products, 2.4 is the one you're after. I'm going to explain the fundamental differences between the two because they both have pros and cons. Wi-Fi irrigation controllers are what's called low data Wi-Fi products. Your Ring video doorbells, your Nest thermostats, all that stuff is low data. Now, in this next slide, this is the biggest reason why, as a manufacturer, we have chosen 2.4 above 5. And that is because on the left-hand side of your screen, that's a visual representation of the distance that those bandwidths travel from the wireless access point. You can look me up. It's an absolute fact that 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth travels 3 times the distance from the wireless access point than 5 gigahertz. Now, the tactical advantage that 5 gigahertz has over 2.4, I want you to think about it like a 6-lane highway, right? If you're leaving downtown San Diego and you hop on the 5, it's 7 lanes north, it's 7 lanes south, right? So you're able to get a lot of data uploaded and downloaded very quickly, but it doesn't go very far, right? So 2.4, think about it like a 2-lane highway, like Route 66. I can go from Chicago all the way to California on it. Or AM FM radio, right? You leave the house, you're listening to FM, you lose it in about 40 minutes. Your AM channel, you still got 3 hours later. So if you by accident hook your kid's gaming console up to 2.4, their screen's going to be buffering because that is a lot of data going up and down. Just like your TVs, if you stream everything, you want that hooked to 5 gigahertz. It's just going to be a better user experience all the way around. 2.4 is for low data product. Congratulations. If you're installing Wi-Fi controllers, it's low data product. So with that in mind, I always look for educational opportunities. Occasionally, I will get consumers, homeowners that when a homeowner contractor says, hey, I need 2.4 gigahertz, they're like, well, I don't have 2.4, I have 5G. 5G just stands for fifth generation mobile network. And yes, some ISPs are now bringing the Wi-Fi, the internet to the home with cellular, with 5G. But then once it's hooked to the modem and router, now it's 5 gigahertz. That is a radio frequency in the billions, and they're not in the same library. They don't mean the same thing. Now, if this was 2017, I'd still be 5'6" and bald, but I'd be reading Wi-Fi in a very primitive mannerism. And this is how I would do it. I would go out to a job site, open up the settings on my smartphone, toggle on Wi-Fi, set it on top of the controller I'm trying to connect to. And if I had full bars, my natural assumption was the controller is going to connect and it's good to go. Here's the fundamental problem with doing this. It's a crude method. It's better than nothing. But the problem is, depending on your internet service provider technician that sets up your Wi-Fi, if they don't write into the SSID 2.4 or 5 at the end, you have no clue whether you're looking at a 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth or 5 gigahertz. And again, low data product 2.4. There's only 2 manufacturers making Wi-Fi controllers today that talk on 5 gigahertz. All right. The other 33, it's 2.4 exclusively. So this plays pretty much universally. Now, iPhone users, listen up. 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth is always going to be channels 1 through 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11. That will never change ever. It is what it is. Now, the most attractive channels out of 1 through 11 are always going to be 1, 6, and 11 because they're what's referred to as non-overlapping channels, right? And this is more of a troubleshooting piece. Can you control this? No. But you'll have an app on your phone before the webinar is over that will tell you which one of the channels it's on. So when you're running your test, 1 through 11 equals 2.4. Just burn that in your frontal lobe. Now, you're going to have an app on your phone that reads Wi-Fi signal. Wi-Fi signal is read in a negative number because it's in decibels. All right. If you take your smartphone after this webinar with this new app you're going to have on it and you set it right on top of your wireless access point, directly on top of the router, the best signal reading you're ever going to have is -30. That's it. All right. That's perfect. So anywhere from -30 all the way out to -70, that is a potent Wi-Fi signal where your hardware should stay connected. If you attach to anything that's beyond -70, that is going to be a bad Google review for your company. That is going to be a lot of callbacks without any solutions, because that's the one bar, no bar territory. And it might connect initially, but it's going to drop off and it's going to reconnect and it's drop off and it's going to reconnect. And it's going to be a nightmare for you, the homeowner, and everybody else involved in the process. All right. Now I put this up here because this is kind of a high level view of a mesh network, right? Each one of those stars is a wireless access point. And I like to point this out because right there where that light blue meets the dark blue, that's -70 RSSI. Now look at it because it's tempting. Look at how much further that dark blue travels beyond -70. If you install a piece of hardware anywhere beyond -70, because you will get a signal, not a great one, it's going to be a horrible experience for everybody involved. And I just can't encourage you enough to never install hardware beyond -70 RSSI, or it's going to be painful. All right, where my iPhone users at? Android people, take a nap. This is going to be long for them and short for you. I'm just joking. So iPhone users, pull out your smartphone and type in to the App Store Airport Utility. Okay, it is an Apple app. I wish they would improve it, but it'll get the job done for you. Android one's much nicer. I actually own an Android tablet. I've got 3 iPhones, but Android has a better app for this, so I bought a tablet for $90. We'll explain the reasons why. So once you download it, and I know you don't know your Apple ID, you got to text your significant other, then you got to reset your password. So by tomorrow, you'll have this app. So in the meantime, I'll just keep it moving. Okay. When you download this app, there is a critical step that you cannot skip. Once the app is downloaded, you need to open up the settings on your iPhone, and you can do one of two things. Type Airport Utility into the search bar, or go down to the apps and look for Airport Utility. And when you see it, tap on it. Then you're going to get the screen on the right. Depending on what version of iOS you're running, you're going to see the word Wi-Fi scanner halfway to 3/4 of the way down the screen. Go ahead and toggle it on. Until you toggle it on, congratulations, you have another useless app on your phone that will not help you. So you cannot skip this step. Assuming you did it correctly, here's the process. You are going to go to the exact mounting location where you're going to put in the new controller. Open up the app. The screen will look like this. You're going to hit Wi-Fi scan in the upper right-hand corner, and then you're going to hit scan again. Now, you just turned your smartphone into a receiving beacon that is going to pick up everything that broadcasts the Wi-Fi signal. Everything that broadcasts the Wi-Fi signal will not take you to Wi-Fi. Case in point, my daughter's got 3 toys that broadcast Wi-Fi signals. 2 of them have fur on them, and they will take you to the toy, not to the internet. That's why the first data point, SSID. When you're doing this scan, if you don't know your customer's SSID, you're flying blind. You need to know that. That'll be the one in bold print. The second data point we're looking at, the RSSI. -41 means good to go. Anything from -70 or closer to 0 means solid connectivity. The third data point is the channel. Remember, 1 through 11 equals 2.4. These are the 3 data points you've got to collect, right? Am I looking at the right SSID? Is it potent enough Wi-Fi? And is it 1 through 11 that equals 2.4? Now, my recommendation is to leave your phone on top of the existing cabinet for 3 minutes, because there are things in every residential and commercial property that when running can knock down a Wi-Fi signal, like a microwave oven. So I run this test for 3 minutes, and then after 3 minutes, tap on the screen on the SSID you want to take a deep dive on. And what it does is it gives you a report letting you know where the RSSI has been for every 2 to 5 seconds for the entire duration of that 3 minutes. So if the vast majority of the readings are -70 or closer to 0, good to go. But if you're in that situation where the vast majority are beyond it, now I have a screenshot. Now I have data before I hang the controller to go to the client and talk to them about resolving their issue, right? Because again, when you tell somebody their Wi-Fi sucks, look out, they're going to punch you. That's very offensive in 2025 to tell somebody they have bad Wi-Fi. We need data to back up what we're communicating to the client. All right, iPhone users, I see the smoke coming off the top of your head. Take 5. Android users, pull out your smartphones, go to the Google Play Store. Apple people, that's where all the cool stuff happens with Android. Don't get cell phone envy. Type in the word Wi-Fi analyzer. And when you type in that word, don't get scared. You're going to see 4 different flavors of apps pop up. Look for the one that has the exact icon you see on the screen. It should have between 4.6 and 4.8 out of 5-star rating. Now, once downloaded, the data points are the same, right? I've got the SID, that's FBI 2.4. I've got the channel 4, that equals 2.4, right? 1 through 11. Then on the far right-hand side with the tachometer view, it's -40 RSSI, potent Wi-Fi signal. Here's my favorite feature about this Android app. At the top, it has a selector switch. It says 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz. And if you simply tap on 2.4, so it's lit up blue, guess what? All it's going to show you is 2.4 gigahertz networks. So you don't have to weed out as much. This gives you a couple of different views. I like the one in the middle. The one in the middle, every network it's reading, it gives a specific color to, and then the name of the SSID is in that color at the top. So right in the middle of the screen, I see -70. Anything beyond -70, even though it's picking them up, I wouldn't connect to those for all the tea in China. All right. This one right here, the dark blue one, I can see it's -60. Look, it shot down to -80 for about a nanosecond, and then the rest of the readings were good to go. That might have been the consumer running a microwave oven. Could have very easily been something to that nature. So, I mean, really, that's the value. That's the most valuable piece of information I'm giving you during this hour is you want to have Wi-Fi analyzer if you're an Android user, and you want to have airport utility if you're an iPhone user, and you've got to check the router model number to find out what the ceiling is, what's the capacity, before you then use this application to go to where you're mounting the controller to ensure that it's actually receiving a strong signal at that location. Now, there's more, all right? Wi-Fi boosters are not all created equal. And if you read the owner's manual, and I've read them all, they all say the same thing. Put me halfway between the wireless access point and the hardware you're trying to connect. And it's a bogus answer. So bogus, because if you do that, sometimes you'll install a booster where it's too far away from the wireless access point to have a good connection. So great, you got a booster installed to a controller with a solid signal, but we got no access to the internet. My suggestion is this. If you do a test and they've got a bad RSSI reading, go to the wireless access point, go to the router, turn on that same app, Airport Utility or Wi-Fi Analyzer. Then begin to slowly walk in the direction of the controller you're trying to get connected. And when you're getting readings in the -60s, stop and look for an outlet, because that is where you're going to suggest to your client they install their Wi-Fi booster, because we want to make sure that the booster is installed inside of -70 so it has a solid connection. Otherwise, we're just kicking the problem further down the road, right? Now, I read these horrible news publications. I'm up late at night doing it. I read them so you don't have to. And GeekWire, which is horrible read, says theoretically Wi-Fi boosters can talk to one another, but in practical application, it is an absolute nightmare, and they strongly suggest never doing it, because those two Wi-Fi boosters will not stay connected. They will intermittently drop off. So if you're in a sitch where one Wi-Fi booster or signal enhancer won't land the plane for your client, that's where you want to have some education on the mesh network as a viable solution to suggest to them, hey, your router's got a ceiling of 20 devices. You've already got 18 on it. And where your controller's at, we're not getting any signal at all. So a booster's probably not going to resolve your problem. You might want to look into a mesh network. Here's a couple you can pull up Amazon just for the reviews alone and say, here's a few I suggest. Here's the one I run at my house, so on and so forth. Again, even when we can't resolve the problem for our client, we want to be all encompassing with pointing them in the proper direction for the solutions so that they still consider us the subject matter expert, right? So with that in mind, Here's three different Wi-Fi boosters. I love the one on the bottom. That's my favorite because it's the least expensive and it works the best, right? So, but not all, just like routers, not all boosters are created equal, right? This one on the top, 20 devices. That's the max. This one in the middle, 25. The one I like to use, because I'm installing low data product, only talks on 2.4. So if you accidentally bought that one and hooked your kid's gaming console in the basement to it, they're not going to have a good user experience, right? Because low data versus high data. TVs, gaming consoles, high upload, download speeds, lots of data. All right. Now, what's going to interfere with Wi Fi signal? Look, it's about managing expectations. So let's pretend the wireless access points in the house, and you're in a 2-car empty garage, and the controller's mounted on the far side of the garage, and you're doing the test with the app on your phone, and you're right at -70. What do you think's going to happen when you pull 2 metal boxes into that garage? I can tell you because I've run the experiment. Each one line of sight, you're going to lose about 10 decibels, right? So you've got to have these conversations with your client. If that was a situation, I'm right at -70, I'm going to turn to the client and say, hey, you're right on the fringe of a good connection right now. But when you pull your cars into the garage, it's going to interfere with that. So if you're trying to control your irrigation system from your phone when both cars are in the garage, it's highly probable that you're going to have issues doing so. And here's why, right? Again, managing those expectations. The number one culprit, microwave oven. That's why I like to run a 3-minute test. Usually people don't nuke for longer than that unless they have a really old microwave. But when a microwave oven is running, it omits radio frequency that will absolutely interfere and knock down Wi-Fi. The other one, young people. That's how we used to talk. It's called the cordless phone. Cordless phones operate on 900 megahertz radio frequency. So yes, if your client still has one of those and they're on the phone while you're running a Wi-Fi test, you can absolutely guarantee you're going to get a lower decibel reading than when they get off the phone. Other things that are obvious, rock, brick, metal roofs. I learned the hard way. Line of sight fish tanks will knock down Wi-Fi. Line of sight mirrors will knock down Wi-Fi. LED TVs will knock down Wi-Fi. And the other one, us. Do this experiment. Next time you go somewhere that has free Wi-Fi and it's not your friend's house, look for the wireless access point. They're all in the ceiling. You'll never find them on the ground for the simple reason that radio frequency penetrates us, but we knock it down. So if you go to Starbucks, if the wireless access point was on the ground, they'd need twice as many of them because when they're in the rafters, it allows the bandwidth to get out without having to penetrate through humans, meaning we need less wireless access points. All right. Now, no Wi-Fi, no problem. Right. You know who I work for? Greg Hunter signs my check, and that is the only person I receive any monetary reward for my job from. So with that in mind, I will share with you what I've learned from contractors and working together in the field about hotspot connectivity. Number one rule with hotspots: if the hotspot you're attempting to use as a permanent solution, right, to be the conduit to get your Wi-Fi controller to the cloud, if it has an internal battery, it is telling you, I am temporary use only. If you take a hotspot with an internal battery and you put it in a permanent mounting location and plug it in and power it 24/7, somewhere between 3 and 6 weeks down the road, it's going to take a nap. And when it takes a nap, you're going to have to send somebody to that job site just to cycle power to wake it back up. And then it's going to give you another 3 to 6 weeks, rinse and repeat. So do not use a hotspot that has an internal battery because it's not meant to be used as a permanent solution. These two you see on the screen are both permanent solution hotspots. Again, you'll know because it has a permanent receptacle plug attached to it, right? This is for the cabin in the woods. Now, what do you need with a hotspot? You need a SIM card and a data plan, right? So when you go to your cell provider and you say, hey, I need a data plan, they're going to ask how much data, right? Wi-Fi irrigation controllers consume 500 megabytes a month of data. If you ask a cell provider for 500 megabyte data plan, they're going to laugh at you because the smallest plan they sell is 4x that, okay? Could you have one single hotspot talking to multiple irrigation controllers? Yes, if they're close enough in proximity to that hotspot. But keep in mind, each one of those pieces of hardware is going to consume 500 megabytes of data. All right. Now, I like this one. This is my favorite. And again, I don't get paid by OpConnect. I get paid by Hunter. But here's what I really like about theirs. Number one, they have a Neiman 3 rated locking enclosure. So the antenna and the hotspot sit inside of a latched spot where you can put a padlock on it and plug it in. And it's like our outdoor controllers, Neiman 3 rated. Here's what I like even more. It's a dual band hotspot. So that means it has a Verizon SIM card in it and an AT&T SIM. So for whatever reason, the day you install it, whichever tower it's getting a better signal from, that's who it connects to. But if that tower gets intermittent or drops off, you don't lose connectivity. It just goes right over to Verizon and off of AT&T. I use this when I go camping. I have one for myself. It works great, and I'm a big fan. The other boast that I'll give this organization, live 24/7 tech support. And I have put them to the test. I called them on a Sunday morning at 8 a.m. and they had me hooked up and running in 5 minutes. So again, no Wi-Fi, no problem. If we're keeping it within the Hunter family, with our ICC2 controller, we do sell an internal hotspot called a cell kit. It works with Centrellis. It does not work with HydroWise. Okay, we're working on that for HydroWise. We're not there yet. But yeah, you could acquire this. It comes with a SIM card inside of it, and it's a dealer's choice. You can take the SIM out, throw it in the garbage, grab your own SIM from your cell provider, pop it in, and you're up and running. Or if you use our SIM, it's $10 a month. We are not brokering or selling that data. We farm it out to a third party. Shop all you want. You won't find cell connectivity for less than $10 a month. Okay, it is the best deal you can get. And that's the quickest and easiest way to get full remote access to an ICC controller. Matter of fact, it's retrofittable. You could go to a 1998 ICC, give it a little facelift by putting a new front panel, ribbon cable and mod in, and then you can pop the cell kit in, and now you can add a flow meter to it as well, knowing about high flow, low flow, everything in between. So there's that old saying. The saying is keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Well, meet the enemy. That's the home house automation specialist. All right. That's doing the work for Amazon and stealing it from you. However, I like to keep my enemies close. What I would suggest to everybody on this webinar, when you get off, go onto Google and type in the town that your company's based out of, and then type in home house automation specialist. They're going to populate. Look for the one that has the highest reviews and the most reviews. Call them up and tell them the truth. Hey, I'm a green industry professional and I install some hardware and connected devices, and occasionally I get in over my skis. Can I use you as a reference? I promise you the bulk of what I've learned in here in this presentation is from a home house automation specialist that I met due to circumstances. We had a property where the mansion was a quarter mile from where the HydroWise controller was. This individual came out and installed what I thought were two solar panels, one on the house and one on a quarter mile away on the other side of the lake, right by the HydroWise controller, and did what was called point-to-point Wi-Fi shooting. Just so those panels could see each other, it shot the Wi-Fi signal a quarter mile in a nanosecond. So it would behoove you to not have a working relationship with somebody who is an expert in this arena. Now, dealing with experts in this arena, and I've dealt with way too many IT professionals that use acronyms that I don't understand. So if you're doing Wi-Fi installs outside of the residential arena and there's an IT professional installed, typically they're going to ask you two questions. Can I give the hardware a static IP? And what's the MAC address for the hardware? So we're just going to give you MAC address and IP address for cavemen, because that's what I am. All right. The MAC address, every single connected device from your smartphone to your TV to your laptop you're watching me on right now has a MAC address. Think about it like the social security number for the hardware. It's unique to just that person. So the MAC address is basically who you are. It's the name of the hardware. All right. The IP address is where you live on the network. Now, if you're installing residentials, the IP address is created dynamically and nobody cares what it is. But when you have an IT professional involved, they're going to ask you, can I give that hardware a static IP? And all they're asking you is, can I tell the controller where it lives on my network? If you're installing Hunter HydroWise controllers with a touchscreen, the answer is yes. They can manually go to the screen, click on wireless, and then put in the static IP address. So they're telling the controller where it lives on the network. Now let's have a little fun. All right. I'm a child of the 90s. I'm one of three boys. We're all 3 years apart. I grew up 19 miles west of the city of Chicago. And, the hot nightclubs at the time were Crowbar and Shelter. You could find Rodman in there on any given night, right? And with that in mind, when my older brother Lou turned 21, I did too, right? I got his ID. The problem was Lou's 6 foot and I'm 5'6". Not really a problem because I'm a solution guy. So I went out and I got 4-inch platform shoes. But when I would try to make my way into Crowbar or Shelter, typically I got stopped by the door guy, right? And I found that the only way I could get by the door guy was one of two ways. The first way was I needed about 7 girls to accompany me because of my lack of aesthetic value. And let's face it, I never had 7 girls accompany me into a nightclub. Okay. So I had to go to with what we call the Chicago handshake. All right. And in the 90s, that was taking a $20 bill, folding it exactly 3 times and placing it tap dead center in my palm. Right. And I would walk up to the door guy, give him the old Chicago handshake in disco. I was in the club. And yes, you're laughing right now because yes, second from the left, that is 19-year-old Kevin. Yes, that's a latex rubber shirt. It was the 90s. Okay, don't judge. But what I want you to pay attention to is look at the hairline I used to have. All right. I had a full, thick head of curly hair. This industry will rob you of your follicles. So, young people right now, get out while you still can. Otherwise, you might look like Mr. Clean here. The reason I tell you that story is because I want you to laugh, because it is a neurological fact that when you laugh, you remember. And this is what I want you to remember. The Chicago handshake, in the context of the sales cycle, in the situation you're going to be exposed to with Wi-Fi controllers, is the MAC address. All right. So get your pens out and write this down. If you're using the controllers I sell, the MAC address for our controllers is lowercase f, number 8, lowercase f, number 0, followed by the serial number for the controller. That's the unique MAC address, right? Now, and I'll show you where this comes into play right now. I'm going to land the plane. All right. So troubleshooting tools. You only need one tool to troubleshoot in Wi-Fi. That is your smartphone. Don't buy any other fancy equipment. It's not necessary. So let's say you get into that situation where you did the test. RSSI is below 70. You're on channels 1 through 11. You're looking at the right SSID, right? However, you put in the password to the controller, it says connected, but when you open up the app on your phone and you're trying to run zones, nothing's happening. All right. This is what I want you to do at that point. Number 1, unplug the controller. Number 2, open up your smartphones and go to the settings on your smartphone and go to where it says hotspot. Turn the hotspot feature on before you plug the controller back in. So essentially what you're doing is you're turning your mobile phone into the modem and router. So now it's going cellular data to the cloud down to the controller, right? This is the conduit because we need to figure out, did Kevin sell me a defective controller or do I have a network issue? And simply by using the hotspot, we're taking the customer's Wi-Fi off the table. Remember, I told you in 2023, I read that article that said 70% of cybersecurity attacks are residential. So these ISPs, these internet service providers, are doing what we're paying them to do, protecting the data on the network. So what they do is they install invisible firewalls, right? And I can tell you exactly how it goes because I've been on way too many job sites for this. Is this going to happen to you every time? No. But I promise you, if you install enough Wi-Fi, this will happen. So you need to know it. Okay. So customer gives you the password, controller says connected, but you can't control it remotely. First thing you're going to do is write down the MAC address. Okay. You're going to go to your client. Now, there are 3 different levels of clients. One level of client's going to say, no problem, like me. I'm going to open up my Xfinity, my ISP app, and right inside the app, I can manually enter the MAC address, like given the Chicago handshake, and all of a sudden the hardware is punched right through to the internet. I've been on some job sites with contractors where the homeowner literally logs into their ISP, turns their laptop around, says, "Here you go, Kevin." And all I did was type MAC address into the search bar and I was able to manually put it in. But let's assume your customer is a dinosaur. You're going to go to them and say, "Hey, that Wi-Fi password worked great. The controller is connected to your router, but it can't get through to the internet because of a firewall setting from your internet service provider." So your homeowner is going to call their ISP. They're going to be on hold for 10 minutes, press 100 times, talk to AI, then they're finally going to get a human. And when they get a human, they're going to tell them the truth. "Hey, I just had a new piece of hardware installed on my Wi-Fi network. It's connected to my router, but it's not connected to the internet." And they're going to say, "I have the MAC address," and the internet service provider is going to go, "Read it to me." They're going to type it in. The Chicago handshake is executed, and the hardware is punched through the firewall, and disco, you're in the nightclub. Okay. Now, in conclusion, we're going to open up for Q&A here in a second. But in the spirit of a rising tide raises all ships, that QR code on the left is for this exact presentation on YouTube. Share it with your competitors, share it with your employees. 36%. That's it. Any homeowner that knows there's a Wi-Fi option for anything, they want it, right? It's on us to let them know we got this and we're as good with this as we are with irrigation. If you are more of a social media person, the QR code on the right is this exact presentation on Facebook. It's a dealer's choice situation. I don't know how many people on the line are headed to Equip Expo, but if you are, come watch Man versus Geo Ripper 3 at Geo Ripper's outdoor booth. We're raising money for Project Evergreen, which is green space care for deployed veterans and disabled veterans. We got a goal of trying to raise $10,000 for them, and every penny counts. So if you will make a donation, greatly appreciate it. We know this is a free webinar, so if you got $1 to give, if you got $2 to give, every penny helps, right? Green space care for veterans. And in conclusion, that is my contact card. The quickest way to get into my bandwidth is a text message. All right. That will give you all my social media links, my cell phone number, my email, everything above that QR code. By a show of hands, how many people found value in this content shared here today? I'm assuming every hand is up. I got one ask and one ask only. Hit that QR code and pound me a 5-star review. That goes directly to my boss so that he knows and leadership at Hunter Industries knows that the content that I'm working on is helping make our customers and our industry better. So if you found any value in it, please take the 2 seconds to hit that QR code and pound me a 5-star review. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll keep doing this stuff for you. With that in mind, we're going to open it up for questions. What do we got? Speechless.
Disco. You got this,
Right.
Kevin? You want me to read them to you?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, not at all. All right. So Matt asks, does the Wi-Fi booster give the capability to add more than what the ceiling is for the devices for the router?
No, Matt, think about it like a main line and a lateral line, right? The booster is a lateral line. So even if you got a 1-inch main, doesn't matter if you put in a 2-inch lateral line, you're not going to get, more than 15 gallons per minute through it.
Disco. I'm going to steal that from you, Kevin. I love
Yeah, take it away.
All right. Paul Schultz asks, if the router offers an automatic 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, do we have to have customer provide an option that specifically has 2.4 in the signal?
No, you're good to go. So great question. So sometimes this is a matter of how the ISP sets it up. The good news is every router can do both. Sometimes what you're going to see is one single SSID, and inside of that one single SSID lives the 5 gigahertz channel and the 2.4. And depending on how the service tech from the ISP sets it up, they might set it up so it lives as one SSID, or you might see it as two. So like at my house, I have one that's labeled Battistoni 2.4, Battistoni 5, and then I have a guest network, which I put on the low data called guest network that's just 2.4. So if I'm throwing a party, I'm not going to get any buffering when I'm streaming the UFC fight because the only thing hooked to that is my TV because I segregated it from my guest network.
Perfect. All right, we are at time, so I'm going to call it here, but I will just reiterate, Kevin, you put your contact card up
Yeah,
on the
yeah. And
screen
if
here.
and Luke, if you want to send me screenshots of the questions, I'll be happy to follow up. And or we could do it on a Facebook Live or something, or circle back because again, from myself and Hunter Industries, I want to say thank you for your time here today, and from the Irrigation Association as well. And I'm here to tell you, before, during, and long after the point of sale, we're going to be there for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And Kevin, thank you to you and Hunter for joining us today and putting on this great knowledge dense webinar that also, like I said, disco was very entertaining. So thank you, Kevin.
All
You,
right.
Hunter, for joining us. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and hope to see you at Equip for Man versus Geo Ripper and at the IA show as well.
Yeah. Now that you know, get after it.
Let's do it. Thanks so much.